I'll stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
It's here, John, Mike,
Here.
Abby,
Here.
and Janet.
Here.
Minutes of the September meeting.
Thought they were at one, I saw a double. You must have fixed that. Okay.
Okay.
I move we accept them.
Okay, dispense the minutes as written. Okay, the agenda is anything?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to put the Township of Excellence resolution discussion on.
Okay, you're making my just support? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Me? That's me. Okay, that's on the,
Number 17.
number 17. Okay, motion to accept the agenda as amended?
Just a second.
Yes, sir.
Could we discuss that the Township of Excellence with the MEDC program at the same time? Because I think there's some synergy there.
There is a lot of synergy there, but it's apples and oranges still. I mean, we can do that if you'd like to, if the board would like that.
Or I could just talk about it.
We can, let's put MTA right next with it, and then we can discuss it.
Okay,
Okay. So
Thank
off
you.
17, it's along with 10.
thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, motion to accept the agenda as amended.
I make the motion.
Is there support?
I'll score.
Chance, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Public comment on agenda items? Yes, ma'am?
I'm disgusted why it has taken so long to hire an assessor. We've been working on this since June. This whole process has been unacceptable. It is my understanding the board voted for Bobby and Mike to do the interviewing. And then they came back with a recommendation. And once the recommendation was submitted, Janet decided she wanted to be on the committee. You wanted to interview the person. And so the vote was not taken. And I just want to know, is there a hidden agenda here?
We have an assessor now. We have an assessor. We hired Clayton McGovern.
Oh, you have hired Clayton.
Yeah.
But still, and Clayton was great. I've already seen him and he helped. I'm sorry, I get really nervous. But I don't know why you had to postpone it. When you wouldn't vote for that girl that was running, and I said, you know, she's not going to, I wouldn't work for this township after the fact that, you know, you said she wasn't qualified, she wasn't this, she wasn't that. And I'm just disappointed that it took, June, July, August, September, October to hire somebody. That's a little ridiculous.
Thank you,
And
Doc.
I really, Janet, I feel you held it up because you wouldn't let them vote. The one time that they wanted to vote to have her hire, and you said no because you wanted her to get a test done, and, I mean, we had nobody. And we went with nobody for 4 months, and that is way too long to go without an assessor. So far behind.
Thank you for your comment. More public comment on agenda items? Okay. Public comments, correspondence, we had two. We had one, and I didn't put it on the agenda last, correspondent from Jay, last day. It would have been the end of August for the September meeting, but I did get, I want to put that on the record, we have correspondence from you. And one from Brooke Milbrand, the assessor candidate. She sent an email, and we'll be dealing with that shortly. Treasury reporting bills.
Report is in your folder as well as the bills.
I also, I do not have the quarterly budget completed. It's not gonna be completed. Neil is gonna, the accountant is coming on Friday to help me finish. Make, the year-end adjustments. If you don't understand the year-end adjustments, what happens is, I'm gonna use payroll as an example. We have payroll completed. Payroll 2 days were in July, so 15% of the payroll was in this calendar or this fiscal year. 85% was in last fiscal year. Those adjustments have to be made. The same thing for like consumer power bills. If we pay them in July and part of them was for service in June, we have to make those adjustments. It's a law.
Understood.
So, what I did print for you guys is a revenue and expenditure report, which gives you the original budget amount and, year-to-date balances. I didn't have them done earlier because we had some adjustments that we needed to make.
Okay, so can I ask you a question?
Sure.
It says 2022-23,
Original budget.
so is that the one we passed?
Yep, so if you look down at the bottom for revenues,
Okay,
the revenues that we passed that are listed on the Appropriation Act.
yeah.
Wait, no, first column, you went way too far. Right here.
Yeah, I saw the revenue.
Yeah.
I'm jumping ahead. Where is,
What are you looking for?
okay, just one. Give me a second.
You asked a question about,
Just give me a second. There it is. Got it. Parks, building additions and improvements, 45,000, is that the pickle?
yeah,
Yes,
Okay, good.
that would be for the resurfacing
I
of the
got it.
tennis court.
I got it, thank you. When you do a road and we do our 10% or 25%, where's that come out of?
I'm not
it
sure.
comes out of the road fund. So if you go back to,
I mean, we would have to make a budget adjustment first, correct?
not
To
necessarily,
put the money in there?
but depends on how much it is. We keep, I think it was 65,000 in that road fund.
So in other words, if we decide to do
Yeah, it's 165,000.
Yeah.
So if we decide to do a road, a new road,
Mm-hmm.
a repave, new SAD, all that, does that come out of the general fund or somewhere else?
No, it comes out of the road fund.
We'd have to make it
It's
some.
the general, it's the
Yeah.
101.
Yeah. We would have to make some sort of, because every road.
So you take money out of the general fund and put it in the road fund?
We
is that what
use,
you did?
so we budgeted for, and there is money in the road fund. Where is it? What number is it?
I'm just putting it to it.
Well, let me give you an extreme.
Come on, 4.
Let's say we want to take $100,000. Let's say we want to pay $100,000.
Okay,
Would we have to make a transfer from the general fund to the road fund?
no, because there's 165 in that budget.
Okay,
So if you said we were gonna pay 200,000, then yes, we would have to.
okay,
Get
good.
from the fund balance.
I'm good.
The road fund is part of the general fund, just to clarify.
Oh, okay, good.
Well, it
That's a
has
101,
its own.
right?
Yeah, it's its own department,
Yeah,
but
it's its
it's,
own department,
yeah,
so
but
if
it
we
is-
have a budget.
4.
Page 4?
I was looking for it.
Got bills?
We got those.
We got bills. Questions on the bills? Motion to pay the bills?
I'll make it.
I'll support it.
All in favor? Police report, Chief Temple.
On Saturday, October 1st at 12:41 p.m., a male subject who went into the Northern Michigan Baptist Bible Church. He then spoke to one of the employees as the man left. He got in their 2015 Chevy Express van and drove off. My officers responded. They aired a BOL. 2 hours later, the man was attempting to cross the International Bridge. The 31-year-old Ohio man was taken into custody by U.S. Border Patrol and was later lodged at the Sheboygan County Jail for unlawfully driving away an automobile.
Can you speak up, Chief?
Yeah.
Speak up, please.
Okay. Northland Sports blight complaint has finally been closed out. Yesterday, with the help of Parks and Rec, we cleaned up the remaining blight, took 2 truckloads of junk to the dumpster. Our last open court ordered blight complaint is the Caravan Motel. He's actually currently in compliance, however, he has till October 16th to complete some kind of a barrier along Fisher Woods Road.
Are we gonna get reimbursed for time
Yes.
from,
Northland Sports, yes. He's actually being charged for the hourly wage plus the use of our township dumpster.
and do we have to pay a dumping fee?
Well, it's
To get
gonna,
rid of the
we,
stuff.
we pay a fee for our dumpsters monthly, so.
Oh, okay.
He'll be charged for, what was that, half a
Goes on
dumpster?
tax bill?
A half a dumpster. No, we actually have to, and I need to talk to you, we actually have to send him a bill first.
Okay.
And then if he refuses to pay it, then we turn it over to the assessor and they add it to the tax bill.
How long's it got? 30 days.
I think 30 or 60 days, yes. And then ever since COVID, we've really been struggling to obtain our yearly mandatory training. We used to be members of the Northern Michigan Training Group, which was held down in Camp Grayling. However, our classes just kept getting canceled and canceled. So we've just recently did this online training through Police One Academy. The officers can get all of their yearly mandatory training. And the nice thing is we don't have to pay them travel time or pay room and board when they're gone. So, and they can do it while they're on duty. So it should save actually the township a little money that way as well.
Can I ask the status of that person that they arrested at the border? You know where that is right now, what's going on?
He's actually still lodged at Sheboygan County Jail. He was from Ohio.
Nothing against Ohio people.
That explains it, Mike.
Well, if he'd have been a Michigan alumni, it wouldn't have been a problem.
Go blue.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, towards DDA, our next meeting is October 17th, right here at 7 p.m. We hope to be bringing in to meet the new chamber director. They've, I understand they've hired a new chamber director, and we'd like, the DDA would like to meet her.
Could we also get her here?
Pardon me?
Could we get her here for the next meeting?
I would, when I talk to her, sure, I'll ask her. Sure.
And how about the tourist bureau?
I don't know about that. That's Tourist Bureau's chief. They're together now, aren't they?
No.
Working, aren't they funding
No,
her salary?
Elizabeth. Somebody by the name of Elizabeth.
She's out at Stargate, or at,
Yeah.
yeah, Stargate?
Maybe you could invite her as well.
Okay. And the DDA, supposed to be starting on the black hole down the road here, putting in 4 or 5 new lights down here this month. Hopefully have that done. Doug, am I missing anything?
No, that's what I can think of.
Yes, sir.
The stamp.
Stamp concrete?
When are we seeing it? It's starting to get gritty.
It's sealed. Does it need to be sealed again?
It's gotta be sealed
Sealed.
every year, no less than every 2 years, according to Bert.
No,
I'm not,
I was unaware of that. I thought it was every other year that you sealed it.
He said every year, but no less than every other year. I'm just quoting the guy.
Yeah.
And apparently it's not cheap.
No, we have some of that sealant, don't we?
What I have left is from the rink.
Oh,
Oh, we
okay.
resealed that.
Okay.
I mean, you wouldn't do it now, you'd do it in the spring, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just something for you to consider, Mike, at your next DDA meeting.
Okay, I'll take note. Parks Commission, Doug, anything?
Oh, we've got all the topsoil spread, the irrigation should go in it, the Red Barn seawall project within the next week or two. All of the wood chips, the final 2 semi-loads will be delivered for the playground tomorrow morning. So by midweek next week, that should be completed. So just knocking out projects as we get them.
The Ben Hinman, the artist who's doing the Sturgeon sculpture, has asked that we can delay it until the spring to set it. We're going to put the foundation in. He's going to be here to make sure the foundation is set up for his sculpture. But he asked that, and we did receive a 3-month extension from MDARD.
Okay.
We put in another grant reimbursement request for $18,250, which we should be getting within the next. I don't know what their pay period is, but
Can I ask about, we're gonna make sure that we plan for kiosks around that, right?
we can. Yeah,
Remember, we talked to the
Yeah,
tribe?
yeah.
And the tribe is gonna help write, their historian's gonna be writing all that. That's one kiosk, then another one was supposed to be Ben explaining the significance of the
Yeah.
sculpture. Very similar to what you got down at the beach.
Yeah.
Just 2 instead of 3 or 4.
Okay. Well, we got to start talking about the budget here. We'll get to that. That's one of our items too.
Okay.
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 Anything else on parks, Doug?
No, not.
Okay. Thank you. Planning Commission, Mike Gervany.
Yeah. We had a meeting Thursday night. We had 3 items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda was electing officers for the current year. I was reelected again as the chairman. Jane McGinnis was elected as the vice chairman because John didn't want to do it anymore and told me like Pence, but he didn't want to do that. And we elected Dawn Webb as the secretary of the group. The second item we went through was the bylaws that Dawn had pulled out, and we updated. All we did was some wordsmithing based on the bylaws from 2008 and 9, so she updated those. Those should be out tonight or tomorrow. Did you send them out to?
I put them on the web. I put them on the website.
Okay, you want me to send them to?
Yeah, you can.
Okay, I'll send you a
I'll
copy.
get it off the website.
Okay.
No worries.
Okay, so we updated that. The last thing we looked at was the survey. We got the final draft looked at again. There's roughly about 50 items on the survey. We're looking at putting it out on social media, and also for some people that do not have access to a computer.
I have a computer, my husband.
I know, we talked about it, but we're gonna leave some copies out here in the front as you come in, and hopefully we can put some in the library too, some hard copies. So Dawn's working with Denise, and I think between her and Mike, we're gonna try and find some social media websites to put it out so people can go look at the website that we have the survey in. There's roughly around 50 questions on it. We covered quite a few items in the township, from short-term rentals to airport to the police, the fire department, thoughts on everything that's happening in Indian River, the DDA. So hopefully in another couple of weeks, it'll be out there on the website. It'll probably take 2 or 3 months to get through it all and get all the tabulation done by Denise, and then we'll start working on putting together the master plan. But so that's where we're at right now.
I got a question.
Sure.
How are you gonna make sure that we have a statistically valid sample if you're just using social media? How will NEMCOG handle that to make sure it's statistically valid? And who vetted the questions to prevent bias?
Who vetted the questions? Well,
NEMCOG.
NEMCOG did that?
they did that. We had a meeting. We had people show up. There was comments. Anyone could have came and looked at it. And we updated it for 2 or 3 items after we had citizens' comments. And so there's roughly about 45 or 50 items on questionnaire, it's not only, like I said, we did that Bird Lake Preservation, it's like a monkey survey, they call it, and we had like 25%, which is more than what you normally get in a sample for, of the people that belong to our organization. So we'll have to find out. I don't know what else to, as far as we're gonna put it out there, we're gonna try and get as many outlets as we can to let people know it's there. Like I said, it'll be in the township hall, it'll be in the library. We'll try and put it out on different media. The other thing that Dawn was looking at with Denise is sending out postcards or putting them in with the tax bills of everybody.
That'd be great.
And that's what we're looking at too, is looking at the tax.
That'd be
So we're
great.
trying to cover as many items as we can. Hopefully, we don't get, the average survey. There is a percentage that makes it, viable. And it's 15 to 20% of the people that's asked. So if we don't get that, we'll have to figure out another way to look at it. But we're doing it more now than we did 12 years ago. We didn't have the social media we have now. Hopefully we can put it on Bird Lake Buddies, different other websites. So.
Yeah, I couldn't attend because I was out of town on emergency, but
Right.
in there, are we asking, are you a resident or?
Yes, yes.
Well, that's what we'll,
If you want a copy, I mean,
no, that's good.
we can send you a copy.
That'll make it valid because then you can sort it.
Exactly. No,
Good.
she went through the whole thing. If you're a resident, non-resident, are you a visitor to the township? Or even people that live outside the township, if they, like in Burke Township, that use the air downtown or use us, for different services.
Good, so you'll be able to sort by category.
Exactly.
That's really important.
And that's what Denise does from NIMCOG. She
she's
knows her
sharp.
business.
She's really sharp.
Very sharp. We're really happy to have her, I'll tell you. So we need to write any ordinance as far as doing more blight and doing our own ordinance for the township. She's done that too. So that's another thing I'd like to look at down the road as far as maybe Tuscarora Township has their own ordinance and on things, not using the county anymore and things. Because there's a lot of things here that I'd like to see change, but I'm just one person, so.
So we're looking not just at, social media, Facebook. We're looking at like Eastport Lake Association. We're looking at the Women's Club. We're looking at, I don't know if we'll be able to do BLPA, but we're looking for also email blasts so that we can get it out. I don't know if Chirp is still alive, but
Yeah.
it would be a prime one.
Yeah, and you could even put your link on, I'm sure Bird Lake Buddies would be,
Probably.
I can talk with him, I'm sure he'd do it for us.
So there's a lot of different areas we can, and then if we can get them in with the tax bills, that goes to every resident, anybody that owns property here too. And all it does is tell you where the link is, to link up to it. It doesn't send you the survey, so they can go in and do the survey. And it probably takes about 25 minutes or so to do the whole thing. I did it in less than time, but I knew all the questions. I studied it, right,
Yeah,
so.
cheat sheet.
Okay, any other questions?
No.
All right.
When's the
so-
next meeting?
Huh?
Next meeting?
I have no idea yet. We have to have 4 a year. We've already had our 4 this year. We're waiting to see what Denise starts with, and if something comes up, we may have a meeting. We have them scheduled for the year, but again, if there's something special comes up, or we need to look at some, site plan or something that comes up. I heard there's a couple of things that are in the wind right now that people might go to the county for site plans. That's why we need our own ordinances, so we don't have to rely on the county for letting people do things in this township, so. I'm sorry, but that's my take on the planning. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman Sherman. Library report, sorry, I didn't write it down there, Kelsey.
Alright. So, I kind of figured I'd speak anyway. So, we're headed into Halloween time and spooky time in October. For next Thursday, October 13th from 5 to 6 p.m., we're going to have a shipwreck hunter and author, Ross Richardson, for a Michigan Mysteries Halloween Edition program where he'll be sharing tales of his experiences. He searches around the Great Lakes and has actually found a lot of things. I went on his website, but he looks for missing ships, missing aircrafts, and even missing persons and disappearances. And so it'll be really interesting. That'll be here, and you can either sign up on our website or just come to it. And We also will have the Halloween Carnival at the end of the month, so that'll start Wednesday, October 26th, and go until Halloween on Monday the 31st. That'll be full of games and tricks and treats for your little ones, so if you got grandkids or kiddos, take them there. Throughout the week, we'll just be having it, so whenever you stop in. And we also are starting our strategic planning meetings to plan for the next 5 years of the library, what our focus will be and what our goals will be. Those are every 4th Tuesday now, every month at 3:30, and the public is welcome to attend. The next one will be October 25th, and it'll be in the library meeting room, unless we can't fit people in there, and then we'll just move over here. So that's everything.
Thank you very much. How many people have a chance very often to visit the library? Because it's a wonderful facility. It's just so nice to go in there. Take advantage of it. Good place to take the kiddos.
Oh, yeah.
Sewer report, Mr. Kramer.
I didn't send you anything in writing this month because there wasn't any change until today. I talked to Stephanie Crossland from the EPA. We expect the final guidance to be out by the middle of the month. And also found out that she has provided some paperwork, which I've forwarded to Aaron and to NEMCOG, that will allow us to start preparing the phase 2, the application for that money now. So there are 3 documents, 2 of them they can start on. So we had a meeting on with the engineer and NEMCOG, so they got to talk to each other for the first time. And they're going to have another meeting with the EPA by Zoom on Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And the EPA is going to give them, Stephanie Crossland is going to give them guidance on how they can start preparing it now. So the only thing we would have to do when the final guidance comes out from the EPA is the physical 2 or 3 page application. So all the environmental stuff, all the engineering stuff can be done now. From the time we hit the send button on the final application, she says it shouldn't take more than 60 days if everything's in order. So what I'm coming to is it's very, very possible that we can do phase 1 and phase 2 at the same time and save ourselves $900,000 at least, maybe more on that plan. So if you all have no objections, I would like to get with the bond council and start on the SAD for phase 2. Maybe think about having the public hearing in January. That way, when we go out for bids in February, we either have an SAD or we don't. Does anybody object to proceed?
Well, there'll be a motion to begin the process for phase 2 assessment.
Well, we already had a phase 2 approval.
So what are you asking?
I just want to make sure you're fine with me calling the bond council.
Oh, that's fine with me.
Just like we did on phase 1,
Yeah.
I gotta prepare the map. It's gonna take some time.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, that's all our reports. Motion to continue with MBDC program, which is the Reinvestment Ready Committee, and then also talking at the same time about the Michigan Township Association's Township of Excellence. Go ahead, Jan, you want to start? And
Yeah.
follow up?
Well, I gave a presentation, I think it was a couple months ago, about the Township of Excellence program. And then I compared it with the program that Mike's been looking into, and there's a lot of similarities. And I think if we work on, we can chew gum and walk at the same time. And I think if we work towards both of them, they will complement each other. I think the Township of Excellence program will actually make a foundation where it'll be easier to do the MEDC program that Mike is doing, because we'll have the foundation set with all the policies, procedures, because a lot of things that the MEDC was requiring is also part of the Township of Excellence. And so if we have that in place, it will make that a little bit easier of a go. There's some other things that we'll have to do different for the MEDC, but I think a lot of the stuff from the Township of Excellence will complement that. if we do not, this is one of my things I'm thinking of too. If we cannot move forward with the MEDC, because Sheboygan, the city of Sheboygan, am I right, Bob? The city of Sheboygan's been working on that MEDC thing for like 6.5 years, and they're still not together
They
with
still
that.
can't
It's just-
qualify yet.
Yeah, they still can't qualify.
That's incorrect.
Well, that's what I heard. Anyway,
That's what the county told me.
yeah. But anyway, the thing of it is, if we get to a point where we can't move forward with the MEDC because it's a little bit more restrictive, at least we have the Township of Excellence in place, and we can show future investors, developers, whatever, that we are a Township of Excellence. We are moving towards doing good governance, and we have all the structure in place as far as our governing body to help support them in the future. So I think it's a win-win going forward on both of them, I think. And I have the resolution here, we can pass them out, that I'd like to start with, because
While you're passing that out, those 19 yellow blocks, more than half of them would go green if we did
the
Township of Excellence. And only the first two, government and governance and financial. And I think if we applied for the certificate of achievement, like I know that we would get it for the public safety because of the police, and I know we'd get it on
taxes.
tax collection.
We wouldn't. I have to attend all the MTA. I read through it. So part of this, because it's
Online.
MTA driven, oh no, you gotta go to their conference. So I have to take their classes, so that we would have to up our budgets again
How many?
in education to, there's several different MTA requirements, so
But
you're
we
getting
can do
it
that
from
over a
MTA.
period of even a
Of
couple of
time.
years. We don't have to do that all at one time.
Right, but to get that to get the
The
certificate for taxes.
How many do you know?
How many what?
classes.
It's their conference.
It's like an annual educational,
Yeah.
you gotta do, a majority of the township board have each participated in one Township Government Academy Foundations class and one or more of the MTA educational programs every year, like annual educational conference and expo, which is a big one.
And go towards their, what's the excellence individual. So like we would have to become individual.
TGA, the
people
Township
with-
Governance Academy.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's there's some money involved with that.
Yeah.
That isn't really,
One of the ones I was gonna take is actually online.
yeah, you can take some class online, but this is saying you have to go to the conference.
Yeah, I do know what you're saying, they do support each other in a sense. But at the end of it, you get a certificate that say that you're a Township of Excellence.
Well, it's more than that because they're gonna give you templates and
We can get those now, we're members.
I don't see a problem with a Township of Excellence.
the credit
But
card
I
policy that we got.
excuse me just a moment, Bob. I don't see a problem with it, except for that I might mention to you, it's labor intensive. And to say, and I think it's essential to have, when I say essential, to have everybody on board, because we do all have to participate at one level or another.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I want to ask you to put it off until after the first of the year. You know, I've looked at Township of Excellence, and when I go to the conferences, I'm envious. I said, that's pretty cool, the Township of Excellence. But in the end, all you get, you don't get it with the RRC program, you can apply for grant money. And we can start right now applying for grant money. One of them is 75% of the $9,800 that we're spending on the master plan can be covered by MEDC. And to correct what your conception of Sheboygan was, they've been working on a long time, but in the meantime, they've got $4.5 million in grants. And if you look downtown, I was talking to the MEDC today, and if they would never envision that their downtown would be so full, so many things would be happening down there.
Right.
That is my push for the RRC, is to get the technical assistance, which would be the helping with our master plan. It does enable us to make applications for grant. We have blighted or obsolete or historical buildings. There's money that can be had to help up there.
Right.
And like I said, I'm nothing against the
No, and
township.
I think that's what I'm saying, it's a win-win.
Well,
I think,
I wanna get going on it because I've taken the class twice.
Yeah.
And I'm knee deep in the thing right now.
right,
I've had several discussions with Denise Klein from NEMCOG, from Lindsay Miller from MEDC, Pablo Mahano. I'm jazzed about this. I had a nice talk with an investor today who is buying property in town. He's interested in talking about it. So I think, I'm not trying to shut down the MTA program. I'm saying that it's labor intensive and all 5 members have to be on board.
Well, part of the RRC requirements are gonna be, they'll be embedded in the master plan. So Denise is incorporating those requirements in our master plan so that it makes it easier for us to get through the RRC compliance. So we're covering it there as well. Whether that gets us to the Township of Excellence, I don't know. I don't know how much of that transfers over to the Township of Excellence. But that's already baked into the cost of the master plan, so I feel like we should be pursuing that first, and they're gonna do the work. The, NEMCOG is gonna do the work.
I don't wanna shut down MTA and say, oh, let's just do RRC instead. Because if there is some valid reasons to pursue MTA, and I agree that there is. I don't have a problem with that, but I don't wanna see a stutter step. I mean, we're doing things, it's apples and oranges when you think about it, because at the end, it is, I talked to Catherine today at Mohawk at the MTA. What do we get at the end of MTA? And you get a certificate, and it does attract,
it does
people's-
attract investors.
Well,
it really does.
people look at it and they say, that's nice, but the RRC is a streamlined process, so somebody come in and right away, they know that what they have to do, what's going on.
So how long do you project it will take to turn the yellows to green?
For the essentials, I would say 2 to 3 years, not the certification. If we're gonna be doing the master plan, we're gonna be addressing a lot of those in the meantime.
So the certification would
It's
allow
a different, no,
investors-
certification is a different, to be certified is different.
Okay, so-
They recommended essentials, which is a different level.
Okay, so that's what we're.
I think we don't have our own zoning, so I think the essentials is what we're aiming at.
And is that this
What does that say on it?
evaluation snapshot, RRC essentials expectations?
Yep, that's it right there.
So my question to you is, for these 19 yellow blocks,
Mhm.
how long?
I look,
Yeah.
name one.
No.
Name a lot. I'm just saying 2 to 3 years, because we're gonna be doing the master plan in the meantime, and I know that we're gonna be addressing.
So it'll take,
Most of those,
so it'll take us 2 or 3 years before we can get grants?
No, we can start right away on that. As soon as we're engaged, you can start on that. The essentials, there's a match, once you get your essentials, there's something called a match on Main, and that's a program that just got notifications about today. And that is something like, let's say if there's, somebody has a project they wanna do and they wanna do, a rendering. They wanna have some conceptual stuff done. They can use that 25,000. And that's, the township board or the DDA or the planning commission can make that application and we can decide who's gonna get it. If we have a couple of people in town that would like that $25,000.
So we already passed a resolution for RRC, why do we need?
We need a motion to continue.
Oh.
After you've seen the baseline report, and you've read it, you've seen what we need to do.
Well, that's a no-brainer.
Well, I
If
went to
you're-
summer school for this.
If you're willing to do the work,
I'm willing, I'm very willing,
we're all willing to do the work.
Again, that's where I come back to that, I don't wanna get to the point where,
We don't need to pick,
yeah.
right? Is
What's
that
that?
what you're saying? We don't need to pick one or the other?
No, I don't wanna pick one or the other, I don't say,
I
do it
think
to
they're
you.
both good, I think it's a
I
win-win
think they
both
come-
I think
ways.
I think we'll find that if we have something that's not in there, it's gonna be nice to have. It's the best practices that you want to achieve.
Right,
And it's likewise with RRC, there is a tangible outcome to it, to receive that essential accreditation. But, again, my thing, as I pointed out to you, it's very labor intensive. If we have to take classes, I forgot what I have to do, take classes, and I hope it doesn't say I have to go to RRC again, because I can't take another one of those classes.
well, you're already knee-deep, you said.
Yeah, I am, the assessment and administration, we've already done
Yeah,
this.
the classes are just a very small part compared to everything else that would help us with some of these yellows. It's
Yep.
just like the credit card policy that Dawn sent out.
That
That,
was an MTA.
yeah, that's
policy.
right from MTA, and that's,
And
in-
right from the Township of Excellence program.
yeah,
Well, the one, it's the same as the one
Yeah.
that I sent out.
exactly.
Which we,
It is.
Sue had, already had the template on her
Mhm.
hard drive, so.
Yep. Well, I
We
would
get
just,
all of those templates. We have a premium package with MTA.
Right.
So you're
all of
saying
those-
that we pass this thing and we can get money tomorrow?
I just, no, not money, you can make applications, start working on it.
Tomorrow?
I can't tell you exactly when. I talked to Lindsay, and I'm gonna have her come down and meet with myself and two parties, one investor and then another investor. We wanna start talking about when we can apply for these grants, what their ideas are. We don't have any, like, for instance, in between and the 310, they're in process, that window's closed right now for them. I'm just looking for a motion so I can tell Pablo, it'll be in our minutes. It'll be in our minutes that we agree to move on to MTA. So we have a motion,
I'll second.
there's a second, all in favor?
All right.
Alright.
Okay, now you're MTA.
Right. Well, the thing is with the MTA, like I said, I think it would help with the program because it's all based on best practices. You know, the templates, a lot of them we have used or will use in the future. It's just a matter of putting policies and procedures in place where we get best governance moving forward and that we have all our ducks in a row. It creates a foundation, is what it does, for the township to move forward on. And
It's a 2-year process.
it is
minimum.
about a 2-year process.
Minimum.
Uh-huh. And you know, and like Mike, I'm willing to do the work. I think Bob has intimated that he would be willing to do the work on this and get it started and see where we go with this. And I just like to move forward just as Mike is moving forward with the MEDC program to make sure that we're just doing best practices within, and I don't think that they would conflict with each other at all. I think they would just complement each other.
Just on the governance and financial alone, forget about the training right now. If we met all those requirements.
Speak up, Bob.
If we met all those requirements, other than the training, a lot of these would immediately go green, a lot. So.
And I'm willing to do the work, and I think Bob has said that he'd be willing to do the work, so we'd just be coming from different directions to the same point of conclusion is what we're asking to do.
Didn't the MTA, that person tell you that you could do almost all of it online?
Yeah. A lot of it we can do online. So
I need
maybe
to
she
get
was wrong, or
clarification.
maybe she was taking the more general classes and stuff.
Oh, classes on it. I was
Yeah,
gonna say, what do
yeah.
you mean online?
Yeah.
Forgot there was something in the supervisor had to do, and it looked, believe it or not, looked real simple.
Yeah, I went through mine and there
Yeah.
was quite a lot, like you said, that's already, we do most of it.
Our
But I was
emergency
a little taken
services.
aback by you have to attend this,
Yeah,
and this,
and I-
and
We
it's,
could do this, actually, we could do this without that extra training. Just to put best practices in place.
but we wouldn't get the designation. You gotta do all that
Right,
to get the
exactly.
designation.
We could do it without the certification, but we would have all the foundation which would complement yours regardless.
Yep.
And so we would still have best practices in place. I mean, that's the goal, is not the certificate. The goal is to have the good governance, the good policies, good procedures in place so that the township, for future boards, future generations, things will be, the good foundation for them. That's the goal, not the certificate to hang on the wall necessarily.
What is your comment
What-
there, Donna?
so once we-
Hold on for a second, Bob. What was your comment? You said there's one thing that.
If you're gonna not do part of it, you have a paragraph here that says you're going to pursue and qualify and submit applications, so you're forcing everybody to agree to that, as well as,
Well, there's no motion to accept this
achieve-
yet either. we don't even have to
I
do this
just don't,
resolution.
yeah.
I would just like Mike did, just to have it okay by the board that we proceed with this. We can do the same thing you're
I would
doing,
love
with
that.
just an okay from the board to move forward with this. We don't have to do this at this time, this resolution. I just have this here in case we decided to do that, but
I have two questions now. Is the resolution part of what they require? Do we have to submit this resolution to MTA or do
No.
you make this?
no.
You don't need the resolution until you're ready to submit.
Okay, so this goes, okay.
Yes.
And then my next question is, if we were to work towards the designation and get it, how do you maintain that? What is the upkeep once you have that certificate?
I'm not sure.
It's every 4 years.
Is it
Every
years?
election
Yeah,
cycle.
I wasn't sure
That's
how
why
long.
Spring Lakes won it twice.
Okay.
Spring Lakes Township won it twice. The township managers knows Indian River well. He's from
Harbor?
Harbor Spring.
Yeah.
But
And
I
there's
thought,
very few general law townships that have accomplished this, as a matter of fact.
there's only 5.
I
Yeah.
think it's
But-
probably the money and work.
Yeah.
Now that, the one that won it twice, the reason they won it twice is the foundation was there.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, to keep it up doesn't seem
Exactly, so
bad, something
it,
about it.
it wasn't difficult. And I did look at the public safety in detail, and between what I know about the police department and the fire department, that would be I would attack that one first, frankly.
I think I would be in support of maybe, I don't know about the resolution at this point, because it does kind of put some time constraints and
Well,
things
the
on there.
resolution just establishes a goal.
Yeah, but,
We don't need the resolution.
if we maybe if we came up with a list of, okay, these are all of them and this is the order we're gonna try to, or split them up, who's gonna work on what ones to gather the information, I think that's.
Well, can I make a suggestion? We analyze all the yellow blocks in detail to see how the Township of Excellence program can get us there faster. That would be, that's my thing.
That sounds like a plan.
So let me give you an example. One of these talks about a 6-year CIP, one of them in here. We don't have one.
MCOG will be working on it with planning commission.
Right, but what I'm saying is, there's actually a template that we could get and hand it off to the planning commission if they want it, that would make their life a lot easier.
Well, how
And
do
I
you
think
wanna
there was
approach
a strategic plan in here, right,
Okay,
Mike?
yeah, there's the capital improvements, there's I wanna say it's a communication to make sure you're getting proper public input, you're getting people
Right.
involved. Let's kinda cut to the chase here. At what point are we, if we make a motion, what are we doing with this resolution?
I think we can drop the resolution, as long as we have a motion to proceed with the Township of Excellence and try to coordinate it with your program as much as possible. And Bob and I can work on that direction, and you can work on your direction, see if we can come
Okay,
together.
restate that as a motion.
Okay, I need a motion, I'd like to make a motion to proceed with the Township of Excellence. There you go.
Okay, and there's a support?
Right here.
Support? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm in
Aye.
favor of that.
Oh, that was easy peasy.
Glad we worked that out.
Yes, I'm glad.
Yeah, but before we leave that, subject, we should look for the similarities, right?
Right.
Yeah,
And I've got a phone call into Denise Klein right now
And I'll be happy to take that on.
Okay.
You?
yeah.
You started this.
Number 11, credit card use policy. Don, you want to go over that?
Yeah, so
Two,
during the audit process, I mean, we're in the middle of it, and it's on,
I know,
oh.
be afraid of it.
There were about, I don't know, what, 45 or close to 50 items that we had to upload to the auditor, and a lot of them are policies and procedures. as well as some other things. But this, when we got to the credit card use policy, we had one for the library that was in effect June 30th of 2022, and we of course have one for the police. I could not find one for the township. Bonnie and Sue both felt there was. I looked everywhere, but that doesn't mean there isn't. I found other things buried in the basement. So rather than keep searching for it, I sat down with Neil. We had this MTA template. We went through it. He made some adjustments. I made some adjustments, and it's good to go. So,
This is the one that the auditors.
yep,
Yeah,
he is.
but not the
looking at
auditor,
it.
the
The
accountant.
accountant.
It's almost verbatim.
It is.
Yeah.
We took out the one. There was a couple of
Yeah,
couple of
I saw.
sentences we took out.
I saw.
Yep, we took those out for a reason, because our credit card, if we're late on our credit card, it's $100 in fees, average.
Say that again?
If we're late paying our credit card bill, it's $100 in late fees. So, on average, so we pay, that's
It's
due
post-audit,
the-
right?
Yep, it's post-audit, it's due in the middle of the month, so
Okay.
that specifically said that the board had to look at it and approve it, so we took it out.
I just had one comment.
Yep.
You know, with all this inflation and everything, I think we need another bullet allowing to go above 5,000. 5,000 is low. The
That-
federal government's going 25,000 now. I'm not saying we should do that, but I think that we should
Well,
give
wouldn't
you.
that, wouldn't
No.
the
That-
power
that-
you've given the supervisor in terms of emergency, I mean, I would have to use any financial means necessary to get something
It
done.
just
in an
means if they're gonna
emergency.
charge something that's over 5,000, they have to come to the board to get it approved first.
And if we had a situation where it was an
I'd rather
emergency.
give you more latitude, but whatever you want to do.
Well, I mean, that's what we put in our purchasing policy, was 5,000 is the cap
I
before you have to
understand,
come to the
but-
board, so I kept it the same.
And that's good, but maybe there'd be another category that, under certain circumstances, not just emergencies, that you could do 5,000. But I'm fine with the way it is.
Okay. Is there a motion to accept the credit card
I'll
policy?
make a motion.
Jan does.
Actually, that is right out of the MTA, program too, so I'm 100% for that, so.
There's support? Bobby supports, all in favor?
Read the
Resolution, I do apologize. Okay.
Well, that's awful wrong.
Yeah, well, whereas Public Act 266 of 1995 authorizes the township to be a party to a credit card arrangement.
Offered by Mike.
Whereas the deems it in best interest, the township board deems it best interest to make certain township financial tracks using that card. They're resolved that the following policy shall govern the use of township credit cards. Do you want me to list these? The clerk is responsible for issuing, accounting, and monitoring. Township credit cards may be used only by an officer or employee of the township. Use of credit cards is limited to the following circumstances: purchase of capital outlays up to $2,500 for travel, meals, accommodations, gas, oil, other necessary expenses incurred operating township-owned vehicles, purchase up to $5,000 for goods, services used in official business of the township. Township officers and employees use credit card shall, as soon as possible, submit a copy to the vendor's credit card slip to the clerk. An official or employee who has issued a credit card is responsible for its protection and custody. Don't give it to me. And then, I'm not allowed to have them at home, why should I have them here? An officer or employee who has issued a credit card shall return the card to the clerk upon termination of his employment or service with the township. Clerk shall maintain a list of all credit cards owned. We only have the one, right? Or actually,
Oh, no, so we have one, the police department
Police
has
department has
one,
one.
Parks has one, and the library has one.
okay, good. Clerk shall review each credit card statement as soon as possible to ensure transactions comply with this policy. Officers and employees, officers and employees who use a township credit card in a manner contrary, this is important, contrary to this policy shall be subject to the following disciplinary actions as deemed appropriate by the township board: verbal counseling, written reprimand, suspension, termination, reimbursement to the township for unauthorized expenditures. This motion is offered by the township supervisor upon a roll call vote. The following voted, roll call please.
Supported by
Supported by
Janet.
Janet. Roll call please.
Okay, Bob,
Yes.
Don, Dawn, yes. Mike,
Yes.
Bobby,
Yes.
and Janet.
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. Thank you. That went all the way there. Okay. Interlocal agreement for recycling. I mean, that's in your packet, I believe, isn't it? And all that is just, we are working with the county on our recycling. Did you notice that the pads are poured?
Yes.
They're gonna be putting up a new fence. There should be, some lighting and, security cameras one of these days.
Yeah, I talked to Jeff Lawson, he says he's working on getting
Yeah.
all of that, he's
Yeah,
taking
they're a
pictures
year
down there and
behind.
everything,
Yeah.
so.
Did they give you an idea, Mike?
No, they just said, I was hoping they'd get it for the end of the year, but I did want to impress upon them the need to keep that gravel during the winter and sloppy days.
I thought they were gonna,
They're talking about asphalt one of these days. Now, right now, it's just gravel.
but I thought the agreement that we signed the last time was that they were gonna pay all of it.
No, I don't think that was in the agreement, was it?
I thought it was, but I could be mistaken.
Okay, is there a motion to accept the recycling agreement with the county?
I'll make it.
Bob makes it, is there support?
I'll support.
Support by Janet, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Dockage match funds, boat launch or general fund? Dawn, you had some thoughts about this?
Because my concerns were with the boat launch funds is what the restrictions are. And the fact that, that money is supposed to be for, maintenance and, repairs to the launch itself. It's taken us a long time to get to the 103,000 that we have, and that's gonna be a drop in the bucket if, you know, a launch has to be replaced or, you know, even a dock these days. Personally, I worry about the fact that the restrictions, I know, Mike, you talked to Waterways and they were maybe okay with?
No, they were definitely okay.
Okay, well, personally, I would prefer, that we go, that we take it out of the general fund balance versus
Well,
the
it was,
boat launch.
actually, the original match money was 44,000? 44?
54.
I thought that was the
No,
grant.
44.
That was
The
the
grant
grant,
was
it was
54.
54.
Okay.
44, about 44 and change was the match money. Doug, how we doing on all that? I mean, we're gonna get reimbursed, it'll be our second reimbursement, and how much did we get the first time?
27.
27, so we're
Do we know what we're getting for the second?
18,250.
Is what you requested.
Yeah, so we still have a few more things, we haven't paid off the, haven't finished the foundation nor the kiosks,
Irrigation.
irrigation. The statue needs it, there's 50% due on that when it's done. So we have more money that we'll be asking for, and we did get the 3 months extension.
In 2020, the board, I wasn't on the board at the time, voted to take it out of the boat launch fund. I don't see a reason to change that unless we go way over and then we can supplement it later with the general fund.
Well, you can. You
No,
can take,
Bob's saying that it already happened. You wrote this grant,
yeah.
so you were on board.
No, I was not.
No, he was.
You wrote it when you weren't on board. Did you?
I just remember.
Please, point of order, people, please stop the chatter.
I just remember that 5 board members voted to take it out of the boat launch money.
Well,
But it wasn't reflected in the minutes.
It wasn't reflected in the
I would
minutes.
never have voted that.
Yeah. I think it might have been, yeah, so that's why we want to make sure we have something established. And if we can take it out of the boat launch, and she made it, if anybody needs to communicate with Lene, I'll give you her phone number, her email address. She's glad to talk. She thought that was a concrete, clear, crystal clear way of using the money because it grew out of the necessity of watching that cluster of boats.
The safety
The
issues.
safety issues about having a place to park your boat while you went and got your trailer and you pulled around. That's how it grew out of that.
But
It was an
And
enhancement
then,
of the
and
boat
then
launch,
transparently, Bobby, I told her, I says, but that's not, we didn't write the grant that way. I said, she's still fine, it's
Right.
part of your facility.
And the way that the grant was sold was that we were going to be able to use labor and all these things as match, and which is not ordinary, but this was not an ordinary grant, and that those things would be able to be used. And you can't,
In-kind contributions, they're very clear up front, right on the grant.
Right, but that's not what was sold,
Yeah.
when we did it, so. I mean, boat launch money is boat launch money, and I don't think that you get a grant and you go into a project with one organization and then use that money to supplement a grant from another organization. I think that's that's just a rule of thumb and puts you in some muddy water, number one. Number two, we wrote the grant as a recreation, tourism, so again, it just doesn't
Well, that's
seem
fine, that's fine. I'm just
like
telling
it
you that.
fits
the-
what our
yeah.
parameters are for boat launch.
So,
I don't feel comfortable with that.
so does somebody have a,
I think take it out of the
A
general
lot,
fund.
but a lot of that's already been paid out of the boat.
No,
No.
none
It's
of
all
it
out
has
of the
been
general
paid out of the
fund. No.
boat launch money.
That's restricted
effective,
money.
wouldn't
We
that come, some of that come out of parks or not?
No,
None of it came out of parks? Okay. So what we need to do is decide where that money's coming from moving forward. Did it come out of the general fund in the past? Okay, so, I don't have a problem taking it out of the general fund to continue. Is there, in fact, I will make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
No.
Opposed, opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, budget adjustments. So these shall come out from the general fund moving forward. Budget adjustments?
Budget adjustments, that's a boat launch. We had to set up another, enterprise fund for the boat launch. It's a 502, fund. And so I need to, ask for, we need to amend the general fund balance to transfer out $103,782.74 that is restricted for boat launch, to the boat launch fund, and then amend the boat launch fund to transfer in the $103,782.74.
So you're creating one
yeah.
fund and then transferring money into it.
So Sue always kept the boat launch fund separate. There was a separate line for it. There was 90-some thousand last year, and then with the revenues that we brought in, it added another 12, so that's the 103,000. It's restricted cash.
And this happened, I did this, with BSNA when we consolidated the general IMA. All of these numbers, I sat on the phone with BSNA for hours and hours, and we had to switch over numbers. Those restricted lines, the BSNA representative isn't an accountant, didn't know what to do with them, so we just made them normal numbers in the pooled account. And then when the auditors and accountants come in and look at it, we need to get them into the right place, so they're restricted again.
So,
Because we
yeah,
just
so
put it
I
in
had to send them a copy of
general
the
line.
boat launch agreement with the state, so that the auditors have that, and that's what they're saying we need.
Okay, so we've established the GL number and then we're,
The GL numbers are already
Okay.
established, I just have to do the transfer out.
So it's a what, a restricted what?
It's a restricted fund.
Which is by contract.
Is it called, there's like different categories of restricted.
that's,
It's restricted, it can only be used.
are you talking about the
for-
enterprise fund?
Could only
Yeah,
be used
it
for
can only
certain-
be used for boat launch.
Okay,
I'll make the motion that we make that budget adjustment.
Okay, is there support?
I'll support.
Bob, support. All in favor?
Alright.
Okay.
And just as a second, because this is gonna be coming up in the next few months, the state of Michigan, the Treasury, changed, the chart of account numbers. And so we have submitted, I don't even know how many, there's probably at least a couple hundred, changes to the state of Michigan. So all of our, not all, but a good portion of our GL numbers will be changing in coming weeks. BSNA does a batch run. We had to try to do it all at once, because if you do it in more than one step, it's $3,000 a step. So, you'll be seeing that in the coming months. Those numbers will change over.
Good enough. Okay, prioritize our road projects. And I brought this up because we've talked about a lot. We've probably had, King Road has been mentioned, Navinoy has been mentioned for road projects, Grandview Beach. The two that look most promising moving forward right now is Maca Vista and Club. And we're going to make an application to the Road Commission for the $25,000 assistance that they chip in.
Yes.
Steve's here? Okay. Steve, you want to give a little thing about how you're doing with your Maca Vista?
Sure. I'm Steve Shaw. I'm kind of spearheading the project there to get Maca Vista paved. Petitions and cover letters went out to all the property frontage owners, as well as a return self-addressed stamped envelope to me. We did this through mail because a large portion of the properties on that road are just that, they're properties. There's no home, there's no one to talk to. So instead of doing some of it face-to-face and some of it via mail, we just did it all via mail. We've been working with the board on this. We've got, the petition was authorized and presented to us by the bond counsel lawyer, Stephen Mann. The cover letter that went out was reviewed and approved by that same lawyer. So everything's on the up and up here. Everybody's got the letter. We've got a few of them back already. We've got some yeses, some not interested, to be expected. I've received a couple phone calls with, asking for clarifications and, answered those, and so we're just waiting on that. We've asked for the letters to request for the responses to be returned by, can't recall it, October 11th, I believe. So I've still got a week or so for people to say yes or no. I mean, if I'd have gone door to door, they'd be saying yes or no right then and there. So, giving everybody, 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks to think about it. And that's where we're at. So assuming we get enough interest in this, I'll be presenting all the signed petitions back to you guys for, I guess it goes next to actual board approval. So.
Well, actually, this special assessments, traditionally we've tried to do these all by citizen driven. So when you present it to us, you'll have people with the frontage, people who own the frontage.
Right.
You own the frontage, because Don showed me today that even people down at McMillan, they have frontage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So.
There's a couple that don't because they split their property.
Okay.
Like Mark and Sue Fielder own a property on McMillan, that's
Yep.
where their house is.
Mhm.
But the land that they used to own between McMillan and Maca Vista, they sold to Mark's brother James.
Right.
So James actually owns the Maca Vista frontage, Mark owns something on McMillan.
Right,
So,
right, yeah.
yeah, the whole, I've got the whole thing platted out. We've got which ones are owners, which ones are backlotters. We've only got a few that truly don't have any.
How far do you plan on paving down?
All the way to the end of the road, which is the Lee's household. I
Greg
think it's
Lee, Greg and
1818.
Jackie?
Yeah, 1818. When I met with the county engineer, county road commission engineer, they did their estimate by going down to the end of the road. They stopped at the telephone pole, which is just short of Lee's address. And I said, this is silly. I mean, and the road engineer, Ruby, said we can go that extra 150 feet or so, whatever, to include Lee's property at virtually no cost to, it's not gonna change the quote,
Really?
substantially, so.
Okay.
Because she said it's all flat, there's nothing special to that.
So you'll need to you got 3,431 feet? Or
Oh,
roughly?
for the.
That's how much
What
footage
about
you-
McMillan?
We're not, McMillan is a private road, and we're not addressing it.
Oh, private.
It's a private road. In order to get that paved, we'd have to get the 7 homeowners on there to say yay or nay, and I don't
I
think
know it's private.
that's never gonna happen, so.
So, it's 3,500 feet, are you're getting the frontage people are all you
Correct.
guys, okay, that's your
Correct.
petition.
I've got a big spreadsheet going, and as the yeses and nos come in, I'm logging it in there along with what that represents for footage, and,
You're
from what I
in there, aren't you? You're done.
Yeah, but I have a question for clarification.
Yeah.
The way the quote was written, it says it's only gonna go down to McMillan.
Yeah.
And the 3,100 feet or whatever it is to McMillan.
Now, you may be looking at the wrong quote, Jay.
Well,
The
I'm
county
looking-
did provide us 2
There's
quotes.
2.
I'm looking at the one that they sent out.
The county provided 2 quotes.
I know, but you never sent one out. I'm looking
I
at
just
the
have one.
We didn't send it.
This is one that says Chippewa Beach to McMillan.
No, that was the secondary one. The first one was.
Do you know how much the second one was?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
That was the secondary quote. The first quote was the entire road, all the way down to Lee's.
No, I understand, so I'm asking for clarification.
Okay, and I don't know who
The
that was
question
sent out
really
to.
is why would you stop at McMillan and then the road commission would have to do gravel grading and grinding and
To go all the way down there.
All the way down.
And that's why we're not pushing that one, Jay, we're pushing the entire road. I only asked for that secondary quote in case there were too many no's down on your stretch of the road, because if there were too many no's there, then I'd say, well, maybe
We did the same thing in Wabi. We did the same thing in Wabi. Frontenac, we had the whole road, and then we had Frontenac South.
I'm not looking at myself, I'm just simply
Yeah.
looking from a township or Sheboygan County Road Commission point of view. You don't pay 3/4 of the road, the other quarter.
No,
of the
and that
road
makes,
beyond
that makes perfect sense, right, so, and that's, we're not pushing for that one
Do you
at all.
remember how much the first quote was?
The first quote for the whole road was 201,000 and change, 201,000 and change.
How long ago? Well, let me dig it up.
What does that average out to per parcel or per foot?
Well, we gotta add in all the other costs of bond council meetings, mailings and all the other jazz that you guys tack on costs for. I did not divide it out evenly, Mike. I don't have that number in front of me. Yeah, the original quote was $201,041.50. 201,041,57.
So another question.
Oh, and the date, I'm sorry, Mike, yeah,
That
Robert,
was
you asked for the date.
7/31.
That was August 29th. That quote was August 29th.
Mike asked if you would be coming up with a cost per lineal foot. Is that part of what your plans are?
That's gonna have to be our.
That'd be ours.
You had a.
Right, we
you
had a-
told me you had a swag
we had a
on how many
proposal.
per
Yeah.
parcel.
Right.
So when we did Wabi, we did not do linear foot, and the reason that we didn't do linear foot was because I'm at the very south end and I have 28 feet of frontage. John Shams is right at the very front of the road, and he's got 150?
No,
100 feet of frontage. I would pay this much, and he would pay this much. So, and that happens on both ends of the road, so I think when I work with
That's
these.
how the law is written, correct?
No.
As long as
not.
it's equal, Jay, as long as you have, it's equally distributed. Nobody gets a, you could, and you guys, nobody protests, you can do it that way. We did the same thing on
Everybody
Apple.
protests.
Apple Blossom,
Yeah.
Kings Point.
Yeah, Kings Point.
I think you have to look at it on a road by or case by case basis to see what the differences are in the roads. It's easy to do if you have relatively the same size lots, but in
you're
our
saying this
case
is
where
where
you
we've
have
always
cul
done it.
that's the way we did
Well,
Wabi.
Each case by
In a
case.
subdivision, it makes sense, because most of the lots are
Everybody's
pretty
got
close to the
50
same size.
feet.
So you get approximately the same, but when it's on Mac Vista, there's such a variance of different,
Absolutely.
so we'd have to go footage.
Yeah, like
You
Mike
know,
Crosby
that's-
and John Miller. No,
No,
we
no,
have
no.
to.
By
By parcel and
So
by
they all
parcel.
get the same
My
benefit.
God, you have two people paying for the whole road.
The back letters
Yeah.
also makes a difference too. If you have
Well,
the back
two people
letters.
could approve the whole road, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So you do partial, you're
There's
suggesting
a-
doing
Well, there's one
Just
standard for
do it by
approving the road,
parcel,
and
yeah.
another
Right,
standard
that's
for
right.
quoting the cost
Okay.
per resident.
No,
Well,
no, it's not.
So where
We
are
do it
we?
the
No,
fairest way you can.
to go back, and I'm only going by what the bond council says, there's ways, as long as it's consistent to how you're gonna assess it, and everybody's on the same page about it. And what was your second part of your question?
I said two standard,
Yep.
one for permitting it,
Permitting.
one for assessing or
Assessing,
levying it.
yep, yep.
Levying the
Yep.
cost per.
It has to be equitable, has to be equitable. And in the past,
What's the definition of equitable?
well, in the past, we've taken someone like with let's say they got 1,000 feet of frontage, and that happened on,
Chippewa Beach.
did it happen on Chippewa
Oh,
Beach?
yeah.
So they pay a flat fee plus a frontage fee. And then somebody in the back of that, they just pay the flat fee. And it may or may not be less than the other guy's flat fee, because he has the direct benefit and you have the indirect benefit. People get to use that road, but they're not necessarily on it, and that's the direct benefit.
I understand you, right?
Okay.
Okay, the other, thank you, Steve, thanks very much.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah. The other one is Club Road, and the why, again, why I bring this up is that, because we have a $25,000 per township, or per project.
We present this in November, correct?
Yes, we'll look at spreadsheets, maybe we can get spreadsheets and see where you are in November.
No, I mean, you present it to the road commission in November, correct?
Yeah, well, I'll just tell them that this is what we like to do, if it's Club Road. And we've talked about using the ARPA funds for Club Road. It's not I know you're gonna,
No, you can do that.
I think you can,
Yes, it changed the rules.
I think you
I
can.
mean,
Well, we'll look into
what
it
say you,
again.
Bobby?
What? I'm trying to figure out the difference, I just found it, in these two quotes. What was your question?
roads, ARPA? I thought you could, I read you could.
I thought you could too.
I think you
We will
can,
look
but I
into it
thought
again.
we said we weren't gonna do that, we weren't gonna use that, the ARPA funds that benefit one small segment over the whole community.
Yeah, but Club Road is so important to that boat launch.
Yeah, I understand that, but,
Airport, Lake Park,
yeah, but here's my thing, and I've tried in the past to get, I called Mullet Township, because people on East Mullet Township, they come around Old Onaway Road, and they come, Mullet Lake Road to Onaway Road, they come into town.
Yeah.
But they've got their own, they're gonna be getting 25,000. Now Kohler doesn't have any projects lined up yet. I wanna see if they're willing, because Kohler Township they come in to use that road as well.
Will the road commission do
So
that?
did you take,
Yeah, it'd be up to Buzzy, Crawford.
but did you take the study, because when I looked at the road study for Club Road, that when they did the study, they tracked traffic before Martha Street, after Martha Street, and then the other side of the expressway. And the majority of the traffic was going over the expressway.
Mhm.
So they weren't stopping in
Well-
between any, the boat launch was not the problem. The boat launch was, you only got.
When did they do this study?
That was,
That was after the boat launch was in.
it was like,
No,
No, it was
September,
September, yeah,
December,
right, yeah.
July.
no, it was like June, July timeframe they did. I thought it was July.
I was just curious,
Scott.
because that would make a difference.
Yeah.
Scott,
Yeah, I always talk to Scott about this one.
was June, right?
It was either June or July.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Like 2,500 a day?
So when you're talking to, is it Kohler you said?
I haven't got,
Take those numbers to them
Yeah.
and show them, you guys are the cause of the traffic on the road.
well, I would like Mullet to consider, but I talked to their supervisor and they already have a project. What I'm trying to do with the road commission is say, hey, look, Kohler uses Club Road. Will you consider taking part of their $25,000 and applying it? They're not gonna have, if they don't have a project, would they participate with
That's
our
awesome.
road?
That's a great idea.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
So, I don't get a lot of response from Buzzy unless I see him in person, so that's.
Well, go see him.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go see him. But anyway, the idea now is to which direction are we gonna go, Maca Vista or Club?
Club, there's no doubt. I mean, we can revisit Maca Vista when they get the signatures.
Yeah, but you don't even have.
But we only got 15, but still, there'll still be a special assessment, and here's our problem.
Why?
Well, are you gonna just do that out of pocket?
They don't use the road
I think
compared to the 2,500.
Mr. Swanson uses it every day.
Compared to the 2,500, we shouldn't be.
I agree, I don't wanna stick it to the 15 people that live down there,
So
I agree.
stick it to the state of Michigan on the other side of the road.
I don't think you can do that. You can't say, we're gonna make the state of Michigan pay all this, and say people across the street don't have to pay anything.
Or we can have a special assessment district and charge the state of Michigan and then forgive the.
A problem, just for clarification, our problem was that I called the state of Michigan about this problem. First time we did an assessment, we were trying to move it forward. And they said, yeah, just send us a bill. But we didn't get that in writing, and I didn't trust it. And I'm glad I didn't, because we have to get something and they'll agree to it and say, oh, I don't want to end up in tax tribunal with the state of Michigan. That just boggles my mind, so.
They wouldn't go to the tax tribunal.
I don't know.
They just tell you no, right?
Well, I could do that. I'd rather get things ironed out. My question is our efforts, because it's gonna take, Steve, it's gonna take myself and Dawn, or myself and Bobby to set up this special assessment district. We said, okay. And it's likewise with, probably not as much effort, but I have to do it with Club Road too. So it's where we're gonna expend our resources for the time being.
I really believe club roads are number one.
Mike, I have a question. Okay, so we have Club Road, 193.5 is the estimate. State of Michigan owns half of that road because of the trail. Okay, we have to create a special assessment district. But my issue is that if we create the special assessment district and we make sure it's paid one way or another, why do they care how our portion is paid? I mean, there's many townships that have road funds that people pay into and they just do the road and they don't get special assessments because they do the road. But if we have to do a special assessment to prove to the state you know, to get their money. Well, however we fund our side of the special assessment is our business. It's not their business, because the road is the road and they own half of it. We're not saying we're gonna gyp you, we're saying we're gonna get it done, but we're gonna get it done our way. If we had a road fund, let's say, and we paid the whole thing out of shot, they'd still have to be paying half of theirs.
Not necessarily, not if there's no special assessment.
Well, yeah, not if we pay, but if we apply for them to pay for half of that, because it is theirs, and, you know, look, 2,500 cars a day goes down that. That's not from the 15 people that live there.
Into Kohler Township,
Well, Kohler
Kohler and
Township
or
and,
Mullet.
up the other side of Mullet Lake.
Let me ask Steve Mann, okay, cause
Yeah.
I don't
You
trust that
understand what I'm
process.
trying to say, though?
I do, but I just, in my mind, and if I was sitting in the trails thing about something, getting state money to help fund a road, simply because they have no improvements going on that road. All that is a road running along their right away,
right.
that's all.
But if
It's
it
not
was
like there's
anybody
not-
else's property, they would have to pay,
Correct,
right?
correct.
But, the cost is the cost. I mean, how we pay our half, we're still paying
Yeah.
it. We're still paying
So what did you guys do when you retrieved, oh, you didn't make mine.
Okay, so,
So anyway, that's my
Okay.
question. If you could ask
Mike-
Steve Mann about that, I would.
Bob,
It's a no-brainer that we gotta do it sooner or later, so we might as well attack it, right?
the county is not gonna do it. The next thing the county would do, and they've done it before, is turn it to gravel.
Yeah, we don't wanna do
And-
that.
and so-
We gotta do Club Road, sooner or later.
It is falling apart. It is becoming a safety hazard.
Or you let them turn it to gravel and then you let all the Mullet and Kohler people go to the county and say their piece. And I bet you the county then paid to pave it because.
My problem with that is that all our visitors with $80,000 trucks
I know, it's
and
not the-
$200,000 boats going
Boats are
down.
gonna-
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not a good answer,
Okay,
but that.
I tell you what, I will proceed with Club Road, and these numbers are, one is a 2-inch pavement, one is 3-inch.
It's gotta be 3.
Yeah.
Well,
With
it won't
the
last,
heavy
you might
traffic
say.
on that road.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with, so what are we doing with Maca Vista?
Well, we're gonna see what we come up with Maca Vista. We have to add up everything, because you're talking about 225,000 maybe? If you're looking at all the way to here.
For the township's contribution?
No,
For,
well, actually, we put in
you put in 10%.
generally 10%.
Right.
Then you get to the top of the top where you start with all your money, and then you start saying, okay, you have bond counsel, you have publications, you have mailing,
Right.
all that, so then you take with,
Why do we
Yeah.
only pay 10% when most townships pay 25?
most townships have road millage.
Okay, just ask.
You know, but look at Burt Township, they pave their roads and nobody gets assessed, because they have a millage.
So if we're gonna have a priority, shouldn't we preliminarily assume that we would wanna get some economy of scale and look at just south of that intersection?
Good idea. There's, they're gonna close on Paula's here soon, and it's gonna be the Big B Coffee as far as we know. And they're gonna wanna pave, so
Down to
there's two
Dan.
owners down
Ed and
there.
Dan wanna
Yeah.
go all the way to
And
Dan's
so that
Auto.
would be the same thing with the state paying, hopefully.
Part,
Part
and
of
then
that.
they would be paying the other half.
Right.
Okay, well, then that gives a little bit more word to it.
How about Navino?
And Navino, we have an estimate, don't we, Bob? Did I give you an estimate or not? Mr. Murdock?
Not on Illinois. No,
I
we
have
talked
a-
originally going down from Onaway to the boat launch, since it's such a rough road through there.
No.
650 feet,
Boats
I
up
think.
Club Road, it's already got stock beat out of them, so.
I think I had one that included all the way to Mango.
All the way to Mingo?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I know we talked about some speed bumps because of the.
There's speed bumps there in March and.
They're there now. They're now. Nature given.
Yeah, I will get, how about I give you a buzz and we get an up-to-date
So what do we have
estimate and
for
everything.
budget, what do we have for budget? Cause if they get their 51%, they get the 20%, right? Or 10%.
10%.
So you're talking about 20 grand that would go.
What we would be doing, generally we do it the same way, don't we pay it over 5 years?
Yeah.
We paid over 5 years.
Well, yeah,
But we would put
You
our
guys
10%
do,
down.
the township does too?
I thought we did.
Could you speak up?
Yeah, because the way we make the payments, ours goes in over 5 years because we're paying over
Okay.
5 years.
Alright, so what if
Over
somebody
20%
pays
of
theirs,
cost.
what if somebody pays theirs
10,
off?
sorry, the numbers are.
So we can revisit in November?
Yeah.
Macavista or Club? Because I want to start working, if we're going to do Club, I'd like to get, and you said you wanted to get the South Bay, you can close this month, right? I don't see anything happening
We
until
can always
next
take
year
it out.
anyway.
We can always take it out.
Certainly, you're right, certainly no paving project's gonna happen. I mean,
Right.
the bids will, we were hoping the bids would go out in spring when everybody's hungry, all the contracting companies are hungry for jobs. You know, and you guys, and the county gets a favorable bid, and you know, we all benefit as homeowners, we're like, oh, instead of paying X, we pay a little bit less than X because, you know, they sweeten the deal because they wanted the job, yeah, so.
So usually,
yeah.
usually the bids go out in February,
Right.
when they try to get them out.
My objective was to, assuming we had enough yes votes, was to present it to you guys as soon as we had enough. And not just barely enough, I wanna make sure that we got some breathing room, so, you know, when you sit down and you do your own, you know, analysis on the website, you're like, yep, this all adds up, this is good. Was to get you guys that before we leave town, which we're leaving in November.
Okay. Well,
The meeting with the townships and the road commission is the first Thursday of November, and our meeting is the first Tuesday,
so we'll know.
so we'll know.
Yep. Okay. We'll have an idea by then.
Okay, but, and can so I'm only interjecting because you're looking at me. Is there any possibility that you could do Club Road and Macavista, both like, kind of like one behind the other, if you will?
I don't know why not, we did Wabi and
Because I understand,
Beach and those
I
ones.
totally understand getting Club Road done, sounds like more of a priority, because.
But if you
because
get the
it's not
signatures, I don't know why
30
not.
homeowners, you know,
Yeah.
That's, out of respect for your process, I would think if you get the signatures, your project, Club Road isn't a factor.
Okay.
In my opinion, I think that's
I
how we've
agree.
always done it in the
We've
past
always
and
done it
under.
in the past, as they come forward,
Right.
we
If it's citizen driven, it's
Look at that.
it's usually a done deal, is it not?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they jump
yeah.
through all the hoops and come to us, and it's like, we normally just let it go, cause it's what your community wants.
I'm glad to hear that.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you very much.
So, directive from the board is that we begin working on Club? You want me to start working on Club on
Yes,
both
sir.
sides, 200
Yes,
feet? Okay.
yes.
Well,
Okay.
Dan can give you the measurements, I think.
Yeah, I get them on the assessing website, okay. Number 16 is the assessor position correspondence. We had a candidate that I thought was a good candidate, Brooke Milbrand. She did write to us saying, I'm no longer available for a position with your township. Please consider my letter of interest of July 7, 2022 to be revoked. Best regards, Brooke Milbrand. Everybody received that? Everybody received that? I was really disappointed. I had a talk with her, and this is how these things work. Just going back to your public comment, is that I thought that we were waiting to see what would happen with her test, and we did hire Clayton in the meantime. But what happened is that you got quoted, you know, it just that's what it. You got quoted in the newspaper. She read that, and she thought, wait a minute, I'm green and inexperienced. And she wrote, she said, I can't work for you. And that bothered me because I thought we had a process of, I would like to work through that thing with you as opposed to,
Well, yeah, and we have a majority rule in this board, and I just disagreed about her qualification.
yeah, please Beth, that's it, please.
It wasn't personal, it was my opinion. I think that we need to be open on this board and be able to express our opinions, and I'm sorry that she read that and got offended by that, but that's how things roll sometimes, and I was okay with, you know, the decision that we came with because majority rules, and you know, and I respect that. But I had some issues with her qualifications, and we talked about them that way, and it came out, and then the vote came through, and that's just the way it was, and it wasn't anything personal. It was just,
Oh, I understand
I
that.
was looking at towards the best person for the job, so.
I passed on what the Ellis Township supervisor told me that I wasn't quoted.
I understand that, Bob, and I guess that's another thing that I was, you know, I mean, we had our process of us as the hiring committee, and you dropped out, just to clarify your point, because she knew Brooke and she.
No,
that-
no,
Well, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
No, let
You, not,
I'm not gonna say a word, go
no,
ahead.
you say, why, you didn't, my understanding, why did you step away from that?
Well, I stepped away because you and I came to the board with a recommendation
Right.
to hire Brooke. Per a policy that we spent thousands of dollars on in many hours, per a policy we should follow. And then there was, I wanna interview whatever. So I said, yes, I'll step away, go ahead and interview her.
And we did.
And you did. Then, the policy should have continued to be followed. That discussion should not have happened at this table about a candidate. When Dawn and I have hired several times for the front desk, we meet the candidates, we discuss the candidates, we come to the board with a recommendation per a policy.
We rank them, the two of us sit down and rank them.
Yep.
So what happened at that meeting was inappropriate. It was inappropriate, and I stepped back so that, because the policy meant nothing at that point. The
Trash or
we have
reputation?
policies that
Well, I have an issue with the
nothing.
process.
So, we set a policy up, we were following it, and then all of a sudden we didn't follow it because it didn't suit someone's needs. There are members of this board who have gone outside of that policy extensively. I've talked to Brooke. It wasn't just that she read that in the paper, it's that she got several phone calls. And she said, I don't wanna work in a township that's what's quoted in the paper. I've talked to you, I've talked to Mike, I've talked to other people about your township, and then that's what my friends are reading in the paper and they know it's me. And I can't afford that type of reputation when I'm building my career here. So that, and then the fact that Mr. Kramer called someone on her resume soliciting the
No,
job to
he
him.
called me.
Jim
He
Lapierre called you?
me.
Not Jim Lapierre.
He called me.
Did Jim Lapierre call you?
Yes.
He wasn't on the resume.
He's
Yeah,
not
no,
on
this
the
is the
resume.
gentleman on her resume whose name I can't. It wasn't Alan, it was the other guy. Tom or Tim.
I called no one. The
Tim
only
Grimm?
call I got
Well, he
was
says-
from the Ellis.
He called and said, you are interviewing Brooke, and hey, this guy from your board just called me and
I did
said
not
you're
call
in an
him.
emergency situation.
Who is it?
Tim Grimm.
Tim Grimm.
Who?
Tim
So,
Grimm.
I don't know, but the policy's out the window.
Well, I have a problem with the process.
Well-
We agreed in this board that we were gonna do an RFP and that I was gonna get a copy of the RFP. We are all gonna get a copy of the RFP. I specifically said in that meeting, I have it on tape, that I wanted to put it on the MTA Community Board amongst other things. There was never an RFP. We were all supposed to get a copy. Then there was an ad I found out later. I never got a copy of the ad. It was never posted on the website, was never posted on Facebook. It wasn't even put in the Sheboygan paper. So y'all agreed to one thing and then you did something totally different. I mean, it sounds to me like you're blaming the arsonist is blaming the firefighters for the fire. You want to talk about process, do what you said you were going to do from the beginning. You said that we were going to do an RFP. Where's the RFP?
No, that was,
Never
I
did-
think, Ron that
That
said
was
the
Ron
RFP.
that said RFP.
No,
We never agreed
no,
to an RFP.
no.
We said we were gonna put an ad in the paper, and I
No.
did. I put it in the Gaylord paper and the Petoskey paper because
You're supposed
everyone
to
in
do an
Sheboygan
RFP.
already knew about
We
it.
had people who knew about, in Sheboygan, I got 3 calls right from Sheboygan within a few days.
Of John. Yeah.
John was like, oh, I got 3 calls from people in Sheboygan who knew all about it. So we put in the Herald Times, or the
Yeah.
Gaylord, and then the News Review. And we got one candidate who turned out to be a pretty darn good candidate. I still feel that way.
I was promised an RFP, never got a copy. I was promised copies, never saw
It's an
anything.
RFP.
It's a request for
That's a-
proposal.
And that would be if you're gonna subcontract it out, and we never said we were gonna subcontract it out.
I'll tell you what, I'll just transcribe the tape now.
I got it, I still have it on my phone.
We talked, did we not talk about an RFP?
We did, and we never agreed to an RFP.
Well, we never agreed to do it that way.
Well,
And you were, and y'all did agree to give me copies, never got it, never saw it. So we can whine about this forever.
It doesn't matter. The point is, Bob, is that.
The point is,
The
you
point
didn't do what
is,
you
Please,
said.
Bob, let her finish, let her finish,
The
Bob.
point is that we trashed her reputation, and that's wrong. We are charged with do no harm, and we did harm.
Now, to clarify your question, we do have an assessor, we hope through the tax cycle.
For good or?
No, for a tax cycle, to this
Just
tax
help me
cycle.
out.
Then
So
no,
we're
no,
down,
he's
no
an employee right now,
For how long?
don't know. He may like the job, he may stay here.
Because I'm sorry, but I'm disgusted about the whole thing. I really am.
I'm
because-
disappointed because I would've liked
I mean, you
more
gave that,
communication.
whatever that guy's name.
Yeah, you're right, it wasn't
hell of a
appropriate,
chance.
how we did that, wasn't
Gersher?
appropriate.
What was his name?
Harris,
You gave him a hell of an opportunity, and you wouldn't give this girl an opportunity to see where she was at. That guy screwed a lot of things up in my life.
okay. We have that, okay, is there any more comments? Is there any more comments about the assessor position?
Could have had a bigger pool.
I don't know, Bob, there aren't that many assessors out there anymore.
They're not.
We could have had a bigger pool.
Well, where are they, Bob?
Why didn't we invite Mr. Berg over here, like I asked repeatedly? He could.
Why didn't you bring him over?
Excuse me.
Excuse me, this is our meeting.
Excuse me.
Excuse me, this is
Sit,
my
sit.
meeting.
Beth, just a moment. Proceed, Bob, and I'll answer it. About Mr. Berg. He didn't apply. He didn't apply.
I asked you to bring him over to talk. Of course he didn't apply, because there was no RFP.
I would believe that
Why
Alan
wouldn't
Berg
he
knows what's going
apply?
on around here. He's got
He's got-
townships, how many, 26, 28
This
townships?
is his list of township. He's
Around
in
here.
We
7
could have had a bigger
counties.
pool.
7 counties, 23 townships is what he has. He's
Okay, so
employed
what?
by some of them, and he's contracted by some of them. I've talked to the clerks. If you go to the Alpena, the City of Alpena's website, it says right on their website, we no longer have an assessor in office.
Yeah, I know.
He would never be here. Every time
Well,
Clayton's
that's
in the
another
office,
disagreement
people,
we have.
no, they said, every clerk I talked to said he doesn't show up in the office ever.
I don't have a problem with that.
I do.
Well,
I
You work
do.
in the office, Bob?
Then we end up answering the questions you're trying to
Talk
answer.
to Clayton and ask him how many times when he's in here for the few hours he's in here, a few times a week, how many times he's got people in his office.
Who do we work for? We work for the
So
people.
nobody uses email or telephones?
No.
No.
Harry does not.
Okay. Okay, any more comments?
How are we gonna resolve this?
I don't know. I talked to Brooke and I apologized to her. And I wished her good luck on her exam. Would you please consider after this tax cycle, considering Tuscarora Township again? I don't know if she will or not. I still think she's a very good candidate. And as far as her being green and inexperienced, I know people that have been doing it for 10 years that consider themselves green and inexperienced because it's an ongoing process.
Well, I couldn't figure out that issue because when I looked at her resume, she's been working in the assessing field since 2016. I would hardly call that green and inexperience.
Discrimination.
Well, that's my solution to it. I just ask her to please keep an open mind moving forward. Is that would after this tax cycle, if Clayton's happy with how it's going and we're happy with Clayton, we can stick with him. If he says you better find an assessor, I would like to consider at that time Brooke again.
So we're just gonna keep Clayton until he decides to go?
Well, I don't know what his plans are. I know he's committed to the tax cycle.
Once,
It will be through the assessment notices, wouldn't you say that's the,
that was March 31.
yeah, the board review, March board review in the March.
Meanwhile, the other issue with this is that when we were looking at the policies, with Neil, I had to submit the ethics policy, and, we need to fix the ethics policy. We have a sentence in there that is it's illegal. There's a sentence in there that is in direct conflict with
Talk
the
to the
law.
lawyer, he wrote it.
No, he told us to take it out, and he gave us the law
I'm not
that it
gonna
violates.
revisit that again right now.
It'll be on next month's
That's
agenda.
fine.
You're talking about the ethics stuff.
Yes. He told us to take it out, and we didn't, and because we didn't, we've paid almost $1,000 more than we should have to have somebody else come in and do the job Bobby was doing.
I
That did
agree,
not.
I agree, I think this whole thing of making Bobby step away because of the ethics policy, which, that's what it said, and then John, not getting the money that you used to get, him saying he'll stick around and work till he finds a new unit. We were gonna,
That's just $1,000 is just what we paid
Yeah.
Clayton for 1 week's worth of work to get, just to get what she was doing caught up.
yeah. Well,
Which is ridiculous.
put it on next month's agenda, we'll put it as a budget, or as an agenda item, ethics policy.
So we're letting the new board hire the assessor then, is that the plan? Because that's where we're at right now.
Well, I wanna
Because
talk about, can I talk about that when we come, board comments? I would like to do that. Okay, assessor position, we'll close that.
No, is he staying or no?
Who?
He's staying.
Okay.
Citizen comments. Citizen comments.
Over here.
Yes, sir.
Just like to remind people, we have a vote coming up here in about a month. However you vote, please vote.
Mr. McGinnis?
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Mr. Murdock? Or Mr. Miller, go ahead.
Yeah, my nephew's an assessor, and he is busier than a one-armed paper hanger. He says there just isn't anybody out there to do it, so you should be glad you found somebody.
Yeah. Mr. Murdock, thank you.
Is there any rumor, half-truth, any knowledge of anything that's gonna happen with the Chamber of Commerce? Has anyone heard anything?
We talked about that earlier.
I'm sorry, I missed
They've
that.
hired a director.
They have, fine.
Yes, that's what I understand. So,
Okay.
there was, yes, Mr. Swanson?
Yeah, just, I will field that one. They do have an executive director, and it's a combined thing, as you said, Mike, with the Visitors Bureau.
I believe that they talked about that, and I don't know for sure that they
She
followed
told
through.
me, I've got a story that'll be in this week's paper. I
Oh,
went there
okay.
Monday. She got there last Monday. She is going to be the joint chamber and convention, I want to say, I don't even know if it's convention, or Visitors Bureau, yeah, or whatever you call it. She's the executive director of both. I do want to comment on Bobby's contention that there's some kind of a policy where you shouldn't have talked about that hiring in board meeting. I don't think there is such a policy, and if there is, there certainly shouldn't be. For Janet to be able to comment, or any board member, what you had was you had two people who interviewed and made a recommendation. That recommendation is then discussed at the open board meeting. Happens all the time. If you're gonna be a public employee, you've got to be willing to accept some criticism, and it may happen, or if you're an applicant in this situation. I don't think you trash that lady's reputation at all. I think Janet said she has reservations. She should express that in an open meeting. Anybody should. I mean, if you'd had some reservations or support. An open meeting is where you do that. You don't go in the back room, have an interview and go, okay, we've made our decision here. Board ratify it, no discussion. Not how it's supposed to work.
Yes, ma'am?
Open meeting is one thing, putting it in the newspaper is another.
Oh,
Freedom of press.
First Amendment. Literally don't agree with that either. But.
Yes, sir.
Well, not when it comes to somebody's reputation.
Very kind of you to apologize to that person. When are you going to apologize to the sexton for trashing her in a public meeting?
Chuck, you're talking to me?
I'm talking to the whole board.
We'll come to that in a minute. Yes, sir. No. Very, okay, I thought you were standing up. Public comment. Yes, ma'am?
In the last 2 years, from some members of this board, I've heard a lot about honesty and integrity. This is a small community. Small towns talk. I don't know whether there's any truth to it, but I've heard several rumors that there are certain members of the board that are planning on defunding the police, reducing the parks budget to $1, and hiring a company to be an assessor. And I think if that's the case, I think those board members ought to be honest enough to tell us yes or no.
Thank you, Sally. Board comment, or public comment, please? We're closing public comment. Board comments?
I am not defunding the police. I am not reducing the parks funding at this time or any time that I can see in the future. I have no interest in turning the apple cart upside down. I'm not part of any of those rumors, just let you know, Sally.
Thank you.
I think probably my voting and my history goes to say that I'm hoping to stay the course, but I have the same concerns, Sally. I have big concerns about being part of a board, that I hear about these meetings outside. I hear about the chirping at county levels, and I've heard all the same things. Again, transparency, but I hear that there are 3 people who, possibly soon to be board members that meet all the time and talk about and make plans. So I hope it's not true. I hope that, going forward we can get back on track, because it's miserable. It's miserable. The past 2 years have been miserable.
Don?
I think I've said enough.
Trainer?
I support the police. You all know that, and I encourage them to increase their budget. And you may recall, when we went over the parks budget, we increased that substantially to take care of the pickleball courts that wasn't in the budget. So, sounds like fear to me. But there's no one on this board that I know of advocates at all defunding the police. That's just a fear tactic left over from the election, and now it's starting again. We went out of the way to provide ARPA money, additional ARPA money to the police, additional equipment. And if I didn't support the police, why did I take my own money out of my own pocket and help them buy a snowmobile? So,
And body cams.
the fear mongering doesn't cut it with me. And you can say whatever you want, but I'm telling you now, y'all know better. If you come to these meetings on a regular basis, you know everyone on this board, regardless of their issues or disagreements, would never defund our police department. And to continue to spread these rumors about defunding the police is a disservice to every person that wears that uniform. Blue lives matter.
Exactly. Thank you. I guess a lot of that comes, and the same thing I spent last week thinking about it, hearing rumors about, a DPW. And it bothers me. Maybe our problem is deeper than rumors. Maybe it's more about communication. So if I haven't had a problem with the assessor, is that as soon as that meeting was over, you went that way and I went that way. I had concerns about the talk about Parks Commission all of a sudden becoming a DPW. I received an email from Mr. Reedsma that caused me a lot of consternation, and you sent me the open letter to the board. And part of it, and if you would like me to read it, I would. Okay. To the board, it's time to begin a transition from the current clerk to clerk-elect, and begin a transition from current board to the new board. I would like to request a transition process be added to the September agenda. The residents have spoken. They voted for new leadership to respect and represent their interests. I told you I felt that was very premature.
Yeah, but where did
In fact, a resident has already asked excuse me, Beth, please. In fact, a resident has already asked for a professional and gracious transition at the August board meeting.
That
If these-
election is a heavy.
Beth, please, one more time.
No, he asked me a question.
I know it doesn't matter, please, if you can't, this is
Yeah,
it.
okay, I'm in jail.
No, just,
Just call my husband.
these special meetings involve hiring decisions, and any new employee needs to know their employment would be considered interim, and their employment could be subject to change after November 8th election. You need to make this clear to them, and that didn't just new hires. Kind of resonates with everybody here that's an employee, and I don't like that feeling, and I know your intent was.
Read it again, it says any new employee.
What, define new?
Look it up in the dictionary.
But Jay, in the special
Someone who
meeting,
doesn't
Excuse me,
exist.
but in summary,
Who doesn't exist yet. At this time.
In summary, please add an agenda item for proper transition prospect. I expect it, the residents expect it, the business owners expect it. Thank you. And I responded, I thought that was also premature, but my problem is that resonates. It resonates with people who work here. And it's not fear mongering. It's something that's out there. If it's an email, it doesn't, I mean, words have an impact. And I feel like our board has made great strides in the last 2 years, but it's been very difficult, extremely difficult. And I think all 5 members can say that at times it's been difficult. We've got a lot of good things done, and it just bothers me when I hear rumors and yet we don't communicate. And maybe that's where, maybe that's my shortcoming. I should get on the phone. I said, I heard a rumor. Is it true? That's my board comment.
Talk about the DPW.
I'd like to hear about the DPW.
We talked about that in an open meeting because the engineer said, and I mentioned, that when we go to phase 2, we're probably, and 1 comes online, 2 comes online, there's gonna be a large number of employees, and sooner or later, we're gonna have to have a DPW. I don't remember if it was in the sewer subcommittee meeting, or whether it was in this meeting, but we did talk about it in an open meeting, and that was just the engineer's opinion.
Well, I've talked about it in the past. 10 years ago, we talked about it. Are we heading that way? But we haven't. What I'm saying is that we have this impression or this image of a new member coming onto a board and saying it's a new board, and it would be Bob, Janet, and Jay against me and Bobby. And I don't like that feeling because I think every issue's got to be.
Think that's true at all?
Well,
I never said that, Mike, so.
yeah, well, it's a new board. It's a new board.
But
It's new leadership.
It's a new member to the board.
Well, then
Well,
it's
right.
member to the board.
Well,
It's a new
to
board.
be honest, when you have an election, you call it a new
Beth,
Congress.
Hold on, Dawn, just a moment. Please, guys.
I know, you can't yell at her and not him.
I'll
He
take it.
started it.
Okay, please.
I'm
go-
guilty.
Okay, you,
Thanks, darling.
go ahead. Who was
Well,
talking?
to be honest, about the new board comment, that's such a trivial thing, because when you have an election and there's new people going into Congress, even though there's existing people that are already still there, they call it the new Congress. They do. It's just, it's a term that people use on a regular basis, and maybe it's not used that much in a local thing, but I understand his comment where it's a new board, because it's a common term. And I think it's just a trivial term. I think people are making more of it than one.
I don't think so. Janet,
That's.
Okay, let's one thing and then we can
We
let these people
sat
go
in
home.
that special meeting, back in I think it was the 22nd, when when you guys said about exactly that, if anybody you hire needs to know that they're in term. And then Bobby made the comment, well, that means we could just fire, if it's a new board, we could just fire the chief of police. Y'all said that may happen. You said that.
I said I didn't say that, just to be clear, I did not say that. Bobby brought it up and it made it an emotional argument.
You
I did
said
not say that.
things will change. You
Of course they're
made
gonna
that
change.
statement. Why?
but everybody has an independent voice and an independent mind, and people agree and they disagree, and we need to have that dialogue.
Stop now. Please.
We need to have the dialogue where everybody is free to express their opinion, to have the open discussion, and like I said before, majority rules, we respect the majority, and then that's the way it goes. I mean, everybody needs to be able to trust that we can say what we feel and not say, well, you know, I don't want to bring that up, and well, maybe I should go along with it. No, if we have a disagreement, we need to be able to express it without making people think it's political or personal or anything. We all come from different points of view. We all have our own independent point of view, and we should be able to discuss it freely on this board.
But then we should be very transparent about what we're doing, because when I have to call Liz Daybig, because I had a form that I needed help with, while you're sitting here talking about her inexperience, you're calling Liz Daybig, asking her when the county is going to take over our tax rolls. What am I supposed to think? That's right. That's what she told me.
I asked
She
a
wants to
question.
know when.
I asked a
This
question.
is a discussion
Wait,
for you to do.
wait, I need to answer.
No,
I need to
go ahead.
respond to this. I called the county and asked, because someone told me that if we don't get an assessor, then the county's gonna take it over.
Why
So
would you ask her?
I called the county and just asked the question.
Why would
That's
you
all.
ask her? She's an
Because
assessor.
it would be the county that would be taking it. I just asked the question, and I had a nice conversation with her. She was very nice. She answered a lot of different questions for me because I'm new in the assessing thing, and I learned a lot from her. That was just one of many questions that went back and forth. So,
Go ahead.
Okay, that's where this issue comes from. That's where Jay's comment hits Mike and I, and what Mike said. We are fellow board members. I am a wealth of information. I may be green and inexperienced as well in your mind, because
no, I
Well-
don't feel that way.
Brooke and I are about the same level, so, but I have that knowledge. So, do you know how far it would go if you had a question that you called me, your fellow board member, and asked that question to me, instead of the county calling and saying, oh my gosh, your board members are calling, they're asking these questions? That is our problem. You and Bob, this is how I feel, and maybe you don't, but you say we a lot, or Bob directs to you and you direct to Bob. You clearly talk outside of this boardroom. We clearly talk in this office. Call me, ask me a question. Bob asks me questions. It would go a long way, Janet, in feeling like we're not a split board. I can't, over the past 2 years with this change in this board, the feeling of watching your back and being split and not all working towards the same goal is tremendous. The people see it, the people feel it. It affects who applies to be an assessor in this township. It affects what business, it affects a lot in our community. And that's why I said it's been miserable to feel like you worked so hard for so many years to get to a certain point in this community. And those little things.
Well, the county as a resource, we should be able to reach out and ask.
So is your
You
fellow
all
board
the time.
member.
It's just
You do all
a
the time.
resource.
Okay, never mind, you didn't listen to what
Yeah,
I
I heard that, but maybe I should have asked you. Maybe I should have asked you.
Stop now. Wait a minute. This is, wait a minute.
No.
Tiger's on tonight?
Janet, you say you want to change public comment.
Please,
No.
Beth.
No, I want to say this, she says she wants to be transparent, and then she turns around and calls it Sheboygan, that's not transparent.
Beth, please. That's enough. Listen.
Where's the buzzer?
Go. Do. You done? Motion to adjourn. So moved.
So it's interesting, Mike, that you talk about a lack of communication